When you can do that, then you got a major star. You got to be able to do that. I don't care even if you fill up arenas.
Welcome, everyone, to Boxing Scene's Top Stories, only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DeMatteis. Quick reminder to download the ProBox TV app, where apps are available to get the full ProBox TV experience, which includes Wednesday night fights and also the great insights of our world champions, Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi, joining us here on Top Stories. Now, Eric Raskin has a story on BoxingScene.com today saying that Anthony Joshua's loss leads to the likely December 21st closing of an important era of boxing, dating from Fury's upset of Wladimir Klitschko in 2015 to the end of 2024. It's an era that has brought us some entertaining fights like Joshua Klitschko, Joshua Ruiz 1, Joshua Dubois, the 3 Fury-Wilder fights, the 2 Usyk-Joshua fights, and of course the undisputed heavyweight fight a few months earlier between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury. All right, Paulie, are we witnessing the end of an era in heavyweight boxing?
Yeah, we are. I mean, but the heavyweight division moves. Boxing continues to move. You know, that we've had a fun, terrific era. You know, this era probably started when Tyson Fury unseated Wladimir Klitschko and sort of ended the Wladimir Klitschko era, where he was so dominant that the fights weren't very competitive in the heavyweight division for a lot of years. And then Klitschko sort of moved his act over to Europe and kept it there. In this particular situation, though the act continues to stay in Europe, England has a sort of a westernized American feel a lot of times, you know, so the fights over there, and I think it has to do with the crowd, the fight crowd. The fight crowd in England is like no other. You know, you're not going to get that in Germany even if you put it in a stadium. You're not going to get that in the US even if you put it in a stadium. And the English fans, the British fans, the UK fans, they continue to come out in droves and show that emotional side, and the atmosphere is what it's all about. I think that this era is coming to an end. In the UK, they do have Dubois, who's sort of a poster child for the new era. In the US, we probably not so much, but there's always Eastern heavyweights that are around, and those guys are going to always produce dangerous fighters. As far as a possible star, that's where it can get a little tricky. You know, AJ was a star. AJ's probably, in my lifetime, I don't know that I've seen a bigger star in my lifetime. And people are going to say, oh, Tyson was a bigger star, and Canelo was a bigger star, or Oscar De La Hoya was a bigger star. Bro, I've been to AJ fights, and dude, I was not at the fight the other night, but I can already remember the Wembley fights I went to. I've never seen anybody do it like that. And Champ, you may disagree because you went to Canelo in Dallas, Texas, for the Cowboys stadium fight. But the atmosphere that the Brits produce is still a different kind of atmosphere. It's amazing. That's my only worry as far as the end of an era. You know, I would love to have fighters who can do it that way. You know, Joshua had the incredible combination of things that made that kind of star. You know, he had I said the other night when he was walking to the ring, regardless of the result, you know, it was like you were watching royalty, you know, enter the building. You know, I love for the heavyweight division to have that kind of superstar. You know, I would love for that kind of superstar to come out in the next generation as well, because these are fighters, when they let us feel these kind of emotions and they give us these kind of great fights, and this era has done that for us. They leave an indelible mark on our hearts, and we'll be talking about them several generations later, you know, like which heavyweight division and which heavyweight era was more fun. You know, we talked about the 70s era, the 90s era, and this modern era was a lot of fun, and we can only hope that this kind of fun continues in the heavyweight division.
Champ, talking about fun, man, we're showing all those pitch as you were talking. I don't know if you could actually see it. They were showing all these matchups. Man, fun fights. Just so many great characters, so many great nights of boxing history being made. And you could truly see that this current crop of heavyweights, it made the sport global. You had Wilder, the American fighter. We haven't had a good American heavyweight in a long time. Doesn't look like we're going to have one for a long time coming. You know, you had a couple Brits. You got Zhilei Zhang from China, who's fighting in these fights. You've got Andy Ruiz from Mexico, the first heavyweight from Mexico. You know, so it became like a really global sport in terms of, well, even just the heavyweight division. I think that's such a cool aspect of this era. And yes, is it coming to a close? Absolutely. Guess what? We're coming to a lot of closing eras in boxing right now, and we are yearning for the next star, not just in the heavyweight division. When Canelo moves on, who's going to take that mantle? Who's going to fill that vacuum that's going to be created, that void that is going to be created by the exit of guys like Anthony Joshua, guys like Canelo Alvarez, guys like Crawford, even though Crawford's not so much of a breakthrough star as much as he is just a pound-for-pound king. But, man, I mean, these guys are all coming to the end of their era because a lot of them are in the same age group. Crawford's late 30s. Usyk is late 30s. Tyson Fury, we're not sure how much he has left. Anthony Joshua, we're not sure. He's 34, but he's done a tremendous amount in this sport. So, you got guys like, Zhilei Zhang, who's not a star, but he's 41 years old. These heavyweights, this crop is on the way out the door. And it's not a bad thing to think about an end of an era because, listen, eras end and there's transitions. But it is tough to think about the future in terms of who is going to take over the mantle, both in heavyweight and the rest of the sport. We're running out of stars. And I think a lot of the negative ways that promoters and fighters have been moving in the last couple of decades are stripping the possibility of creating stars. We've got champions who are avoiding big fights with other guys. Guys who are fighting, like you mentioned on other shows, champ, fighting them when they're way beyond their best. We're not getting fighters fighting at the right time when they're both in their primes. Because guess what? Not only does that create stars, it makes the fighters better, both sides. You get guys matching up at their best. They're both learning from those experiences. They're going on. And the winner, of course, is going to be that much better. And they go on from there. Just think of the 80s when you think about, Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns. These guys who are fighting in their 20s, their mid-20s. They both went on to have Hall of Fame incredible careers because of all that they learned during that time being able to fight the best of the best. So I think what's happening now could benefit the future in terms of we're getting these matchups starting finally the last 2 years, basically because of Turki Al-Sheikh is able to make the heavyweight division churn again, and we're seeing some of these other fights that could never happen happening. But we'll see, man. I'm nervous for the future because of what I said about the potential for who is going to be the future star of the sport, who is going to take over that mantle. Because I don't really know who's there right now. We're going to need some real breakout events and breakout stars to take that position.
Chris, let me ask you this, because you guys are talking about stars and who could be the new face. Daniel Dubois, 27 years old. He's just coming off a big victory off of Anthony Joshua with that spectacular knockout. Is everything set up for him to be that face of the heavyweight division, especially if down the line he gets a shot at Usyk and win more titles and not just wear the IBF strap as well? But is everything set up for Daniel Dubois maybe to be that face?
Well, to be perfectly honest, being a star is not just about winning. There's a lot of other components that come to that. And champ, you mentioned that about Anthony Joshua. I say it all the time. Anthony Joshua, if I'm building a heavyweight champion in a boxing video game, I'm making Anthony Joshua. He's got the look, the talk, the technique, the power. He's got everything. He's got it all. He's got it all. And that's why he was such a superstar. Look at Canelo. Canelo doesn't just fight the best guys around, or he did for a long time. He had the look. He's a red-haired Mexican. He's got the look. He's got a swagger to him. All of that is necessary to be a true star. And, you see a guy like Crawford who's struggling to be a breakthrough star and be a crossover star because of those other elements that matter. Dubois is another one. I don't necessarily see him having all of the makeup to be that. He's going to have a long, hard road of just beating everybody. He can become a star that way, too. Look at Crawford. He's entering that phase of his career. But to be a breakthrough crossover star the way Anthony Joshua was, I don't see Daniel Dubois being that guy.
That's what a star is, man. That's what a star is. Look at that. I keep talking about this entrance. If you look at the entrance AJ had, Crawford doesn't have that entrance. Canelo possibly is one that matches it. But I'm telling you, you can have a filled stadium because of a great matchup. But when the star comes out and the entire stadium, the energy of the entire stadium is just different. That was the most unbelievable walkout I ever saw in my life, personally. That was my favorite walkout I've ever seen. Some people like when the rappers walk them out. Some people like the Hamed antics when he will walk down. That right there was business. It was entertainment. And then it got the entire crowd just roaring. But it was mainly because it was Anthony Joshua who was coming out. That's a star. Americans like to say, oh, who's our biggest star? Gervonta Davis. We're going to do Terrence Crawford. We're going to do – no, you got nothing. You got nothing because nobody can do that. When you can do that, then you got a major star. You got to be able to do that. I don't care even if you fill up arenas. You got to fill up arenas and you got to make people talk.
You got to move people. You got to move people.
Exactly.
You got to move people.
Well said. You got to move people's emotions when you show up. When Joshua's moving and he's walking to the ring and the music is there and the crowd is there and the fireworks are going on. Yes, all the theatrics are fun, but you're moving people's emotions, bro. That it factor cannot be taught. You cannot spit a square peg into a round hole, no matter how much you want to do it. the emotion where you can move everyone, not just the people of your culture. You can move everyone. That's rare.
Paul, you fought Ricky when Ricky was at the height. He was like that. He was one of those guys, a true crossover star. When you fought Cotto, he wasn't quite the level that he got to. When I fought Pacquiao, I was like that too. Certain guys, they move the inner soul and essence of their fan base.
But even when I fought Cotto, I felt like it was the loudest crowd I've ever been in front of.
The Puerto Rican fan base is awesome.
And I was at Hatton Lascano because I was the co-main event, and he was in this Etihad Stadium, which was an incredible event. Again, Hatton moved people as well. He had an incredible event. But the loudness that Cotto generated before he ever took an L in the Garden, bro, and I can remember going to Trinidad fights in the Garden, and you're just like, whoa, dude, whoa.
Puerto Rican fans are awesome. They're awesome.
It's also a cultural thing, but that culture, it starts to spread into other cultures because these people just become so fanatical. I don't know, man. I don't think I can put into words the way that walkout looked. And people are going to say, oh, well, look at the result of the fight. Dude, I mean, we all age. What are you going to do, you know? I saw the Klitschko and Joshua walkouts too, and now those were crazy moving as well. Really, really. That when you think about a boxing star, that's what you want. I think Mike Tyson probably had this feel because from what I've been told from people that were at live Mike Tyson fights, when he was walking out, you know, I can remember Lou DiBella talking about "Welcome to the Terror Dome" by a Public Enemy.
I was just about to say that.
And he said when he came out, when Tyson walked out to that song, he just remembers looking at Alex Stewart's wife crying because Alex Stewart was waiting for Tyson in the ring. And again, it moves you in a different way, but it's just like the energy. The guys didn't even reach the ring to fight yet, and there's that kind of emotion and energy reverberating all through the crowd. It's very rare, man. It's very rare, but you can't just force that. Boxing loves to try to force it. Love to try to pick their guys. You're not gonna force it. I'm sorry. You either have it or you don't.
Well, that's what it is. It's the it factor, and that's where we're severely lacking in the next crop of stars. And I don't know who's going to be able to take that mantle, but it's a beautiful thing if they do.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. Sometimes the it factor is there. Just boxing decides to pick somebody else. Again, you're not going to fit a round square peg into a round hole because you may have a guy who has the it factor and you don't move him in the right direction, and then the star never generates. The pieces got to be there. You can't put the pieces there even if you want to. Listen. We live in a technological generation, so you can make a sneaker into a star, but is it going to move people? You can make people know about it, but is it going to move them when that thing shows up on the scene? AJ had that. Canelo has that. A lot of Mike Tyson had that, but who's going to have that next?
Yeah, it certainly is in an individual sport as well. It's very important to have that it factor, that person that has that it factor that will move people into the stadium. And if there is a new star that does arise, we're definitely going to talk about it here on Top Stories. And we'd like to remind you to scan the QR code. Don't forget the best live fight series in all of boxing, Wednesday Night Fights, another edition, October 9th. You can watch it on YouTube or on the ProBox TV app, so download the app where apps are available. I'm George D. Metellus, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, October 9th. Chris, Primetime Colbert, and Omar Super Salcido step into the ring for what is sure to be a barn burner. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at ProBoxTV.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.